Hello, everyone, and welcome to Think Copilot. My name is Garry Trinder. I'm a cloud developer advocate at Microsoft, focused on Microsoft 365. And with me today, I have with me Waldek.
Hey, everybody. My name is Waldek Mastykarz, and I am developer advocate for Microsoft 365 at Microsoft.
And we also have a guest with us today. We have Anoop with us. Anoop, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone. I am Anoop, and I'm a team lead at a company called Advania UK based in London, and I'm a Microsoft MVP as well in the M365 category.
Fantastic. So we're not going to talk about M365 today, but we're going to talk about AI. So you've been using AI and the different offerings that are out there, like Microsoft Copilot. So how do you use AI in your day-to-day?
Right, that's a good question. So AI nowadays is everywhere, right? So you open your Twitter feed, LinkedIn feed, you just see a lot of posts about AI. And one of the main aspects of AI that I use quite a lot is Copilot. So in that particularly the GitHub Copilot, which is in like the Visual Studio Code extension, and the other one is the Microsoft Copilot. So those two primarily I use that quite a lot in my day-to-day work. So if you want, Gary, I can tell some of the use cases around that or how I use them. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Yeah, right. So with respect to Microsoft Copilot, we've got the consumer version, copilot.microsoft.com. With I use it with my with my personal Microsoft account. So those are for things that I just want to search. So recently, I've started reading this book called "As We Have No Idea." It talks about the universe and all the things in the universe that we have no idea about. So what happened was, so I wanted to know more about like what's in the universe, etc., and what are the different things. So I started using, I use Copilot quite a lot for that on the personal side. So I ask it a few questions, get some information, and that has been quite helpful to me. So along with that book, I use Copilot for that. So that's just one use case on my personal side, but I use it for other things as well. And we've got on the enterprise side, again, we've got Copilot, but with the work account. So for some work-related queries that I need answers for, I use the enterprise version. Still haven't got the Copilot for Microsoft 365 license yet. They are rolling it out slowly in our company. So if someone's listening from Advania, please give me one as well. Just kidding. I think we should be getting one soon.
Whooping Chris.
Yes. Yeah. But I have heard, really good things about Copilot for Microsoft 365, especially with the Teams meeting summary, I believe. So if you missed a meeting and you want to know what has happened in the meeting, in that aspect, Copilot for Microsoft 365 is very helpful, and other use cases as well. Having said that, we do in our company, Advania, we have this a private chat GPT offering, which uses Azure OpenAI and connects to Microsoft 365 data as well, or rather SharePoint data as well, and then provides information. So I use that at work. And then on the other thing which I use quite a lot is the GitHub Copilot. So that one, whenever I'm coding, it's there. Just write a comment as to what you want to do, and then it starts giving you all this information, all the code, which is very helpful. And I think this might be a common theme with everyone using GitHub Copilot. It's mainly, for me, with the regular expressions, I need it. I need Copilot for that. Earlier, it was the case of finding that information on the internet and trying to come up with your regular expression, trial and error. But now it's like it's just there. So yeah, quite a few hours are saved on that. So yeah, GitHub Copilot, and the particularly like the chat feature of
Mhm.
GitHub Copilot. So you can ask it to explain some piece of code, or uh, you know to maybe help with an error as well. So yeah, those are the main things with respect to AI that I use. And apart from that, just as a side project, I've been listening to a couple of podcasts as well, and then recently I came across this interesting podcast called as Syntax. I think you might have heard of it. Um, so there, in one of the episodes, they mention about a JavaScript library which can be downloaded onto your browser, and that is nothing but an LLM, which is downloaded onto your
Browser.
browser. Yes,
Wow.
That
yes.
is so
It's
cool.
about 50 or 60 meg, and it takes some time to download. And once you have it, you can go offline, and then you have AI in your browser, and then
Huh.
can start asking questions, and you're playing with it. So I need to, I have looked into it, how to set it up, etc. So need to set it up now and start playing with it. Uh,
Cool.
You mentioned many examples. I think there isn't a use case you don't use AI for. You mentioned learning about the universe, coding, regular expressions, which is kind of basically the same thing as to learn about all the different things in the universe. You mentioned work. You mentioned Copilot for Microsoft, or Microsoft Copilot. You mentioned your private offering. Across the board, like, do you have like set of prompts that you tend to use over and over again, like where you start, or how do you go about it?
Right. So with respect to Microsoft Copilot, there's no prompts as such, because it depends on what I want to get the information on. So it's so on the personal side, it's usually just like if I as if I am having a conversation with someone. So it's that kind of question.
Mhm.
Uh, However, on the GitHub Copilot side, um, whenever I use the chat feature, it's usually like, can you explain this particular code for me? Or let's say if there's an error message, so that error message itself becomes the prompt, and then
Yeah.
so I'm getting this error. How do I fix it? Uh,
Or like emoji with
yes, yeah,
this thing.
yeah, yeah. Uh, but yeah, I have seen a few prompt examples. I think Waldek, just earlier we were having a chat about Copilot Labs, and
Mhm.
also the repository that has been set up recently in the PNP community. Is it okay to talk about that
Yes,
here,
okay.
or yeah?
It's open,
Absolutely.
it's public. Let's make it the worst kept secret ever.
So yeah, I think the Copilot Labs, yes, there are a few example prompts around all the different apps that are provided by Microsoft 365. So some examples there as well, and then we've got a repository in the PNP project now for Copilot prompts. I think I need to start looking into that and then start contributing and using it as well. Yes.
Cool. So you mentioned, I think one of your very first examples, learning about the universe, right? It's kind of, you're like, oh, okay, I'm using Copilot because I want to search for things. So it's like, what benefit really did you get from using Copilot as opposed to just let's say traditional methods? You get a book, or you read multiple web pages. So
You have a what?
why
Sorry?
use Copilot?
What's this book you're talking about? Like nowadays, everybody is on TikTok and YouTube, right? No.
Exactly. Yeah.
Do we even read anymore?
Some
I
say.
have the book right here, actually. Yeah, show it to you quickly. That
Oh
one.
my God, you printed a video.
Right.
Yeah,
So
tell us about how that using Copilot made that a kind of a different experience. What benefits did you
yeah, so for me, I like to see the responses in bullet points, right? That helps me quite a lot to understand things. And yes, I could have gone to all these different pages and could have surfaced the information myself and then read about them. But to summarize those in a nice, in a nice manner from all this heap of information that is there on the web, Copilot is really helpful, and we get real-time information as well. So some of the things that have happened recently. There's this telescope that is sent by NASA called as the James Webb Telescope that keeps forwarding information, and we can get real-time information on what's happening around that and some interesting findings, etc. So yeah, with the help of Copilot, it extracts information from all these different sources and gives us this information. And with respect to the universe, there are like a lot of things, and these different terms I have no idea about. So to understand what they are and how they come into picture, etc. You ask a question as if you are speaking with someone, maybe speaking to a physicist, and then you get a nice response.
With
And then
10 additional words you don't understand.
yes, yeah. And that's where the prompt, can you explain it to me as if I'm five, comes
Eli
into
5,
play.
Eli 5. Yes, I use it myself a lot too, especially when it comes to like things you mentioned, like things that are deeply technical, scientific. Like, yes, I don't know anything in this space. Explain to me like I'm 5.
Yes, yeah, that is really helpful actually. With respect to things like, I don't know, there are some of these terms related. I mean, for physicists, it's quite easy, but I'm not a physicist. I know, I mean, a bit of SharePoint, and that's it, I think. So,
Well, it's not that far away from being a physicist. Like you also use, some things fall down, some things,
yeah, so yeah, in that way, Copilot has been very helpful. So the more and more you understand, and just to give an example, it all started with a video that I saw, I think, on Instagram or on YouTube, saying how fast the at what pace are we moving in this universe. So in this short conversation that we are having, we would have moved like millions of miles, I believe. So there's a video which explains how all this happens, and then that got me that got me interested into learning about more on these things. So I started using Copilot, started asking his questions, and came across a podcast, and that led me to this book. So yeah, it's quite interesting.
Very cool. Yeah. So you also mentioned your, let's say, split kind of life, right? You talked about personal and you talked about work as well, and kind of using the enterprise version of Microsoft Copilot. So, I guess what's your main driver behind that? Surely you can use like any Copilot for anything, right? Why would I use one or the other?
So one of the main things with Microsoft Copilot is the access to or the usage of Bing to get real-time information. So of course we can use other AI tools. However, when we want like more up-to-date information, I think Copilot shines there quite a lot. So that has been helpful. So yes, there is an option for me doing a quick search on the internet and then getting information. However, sometimes I get lazy and then I want Copilot to give me all these answers one by one. And yeah, in that aspect, it does help. Yes.
Cool.
So that's one of the reasons. Yeah.
And obviously, you're wanting to use enterprise to kind of get your own data, right? As in, when you're working, the things that you're, maybe working on that you, again, it feels like, oh, I'm going to use Copilot because I feel lazy today. I don't want to actually search for it, right? But, people may say, well, that's actually just being efficient. That's not being lazy, right?
Yeah.
Another way.
True.
So what types of what type of questions, prompts, usage do you use of the enterprise version where your work is involved? You're not talking about the universe, right? When you're at work,
No.
or maybe who knows?
Well, the Microsoft 365 universe. Let's put it that way.
Well,
So,
and also, I mean, the moment you type a regex, you type a dot asterisk, that's the universe. That's everything.
there you go. You've simplified it for us.
I'm here to hold it.
Yeah. So it's mainly around sometimes I need to have conversations with customers on their projects, right? So to understand like the domain in which the customers are. So questions around that. I can use the non-enterprise version, but there is a boundary provided by Azure OpenAI on the data when I use the enterprise version. So that's why for all work-related questions, I stick with the enterprise version, so that there is that layer of security, and within it all stays within the tenant or our work tenant. And yeah, so the questions are around that, like understanding the domain in which the customers are, and sometimes around Microsoft 365, like maybe there's a problem I'm facing when I'm writing code, and I want to understand the concept. During that time, I ask about that concept to Copilot and get some information. So sometimes it's like the information that is provided. Yes, I use that to maybe understand about it, and then build upon that. However, sometimes it's like all the information is there, and that helps me with everything, and then I just move on to the next bits. So yeah, it's mainly those information about things related to the customer domain, etc. And on the other side, on the Microsoft 365 bits, for which I need more information on.
So imagine we go back in time, 2 years, 3 years. There is no GPTs, LLMs, anything. How did you go back then in the past about finding out these, answers? Or did you say, like, you know what, I don't know it. You know what, I'm gonna just go off, do something, and I just don't know.
Yes, so that's a good question. So firstly, the Microsoft 365 community has been very helpful. There are lots of blogs published, lots of videos and everything. So used to and still follow all those videos and blogs, which help me quite a lot. But with Copilot, that has been easier now. So I think all that information is surfaced in a nice manner in Copilot. And yeah, earlier it was the case of doing some more research, spending more time, and then trying to find the exact information. But now I think that time is saved, definitely. Yes, even going back to GitHub Copilot, like writing the regex, of course, yes. Even in some other cases wherein I would have written some part of code, and then if I wanted to test myself whether that is efficient or not, or if something's missing, maybe I could validate that with my colleagues, and then get some good information. Now I can ask the same thing to Copilot, saying, hey, there's this part of code that I've written. Can you let me know if it is efficient, or can you make it more efficient? So in that case, it does help. And yeah, but that's how it saves time. Yes.
It's kind of like having, we talk about like the rubber duck, right? You kind of are trying to solve a problem with something that isn't real, but Copilot's actually going to give you answers. But I've never considered the way of, like, in a team, you're kind of reducing the let's say the distractions on other members of your team, because you're reaching out to other people. They may be mid-work and then think, oh, I need to stop, I need to reply. But actually you've got that kind of two-way conversation happening without actually being able to actually reaching out to anyone, right? So
yeah, and also another thing is, right, I mean, there's no stupid question, right? Like you can just ask. There's no judgment because the other thing isn't animate. Like it's not. It doesn't. It's not a. It's a thing. It's processor. It's gears.
Mhm.
It's chips. It's like it doesn't have judgment on you. It will not keep track of what you asked the other day. So it's just like you
Yeah.
can ask it anything. Like, hey, like I'm doing this. Or like, is this weird? Is this? You can ask it anything you want without that cognitive or like mental social judgment, right? So I think if anything else, it lowers the barrier to ask and learn.
Yes, yeah, definitely. And one thing is, I don't know whether it's only me. I'm always polite when I ask questions. I always end it with please or
You're
thank
polite
you. Or
always, period. Like there is no like not like I don't know you being impolite. Like I've never heard you like even going even veering towards that direction or intention. So that doesn't count.
Right.
Yeah, I think there's almost like a little bit of we talked about prompts, right? And do you have like set prompts that you always use? And there is kind of there's they're not really theories; they've almost been proved, right? That if you ask questions in a nice, polite way, or kind of say, take your time figuring out the answer, so that you're basically saying to someone, relax, it's fine, as you would do in a normal setting, right? And as opposed to going, just give me the answer and give me it now, right? You
Code
get
only,
very
no
different.
comment. Code only, no explanation.
You get
Just
very
bullet point.
different responses, and LLMs are no different in that respect. So actually, saying please and thank you could actually alter the responses that you get, which is quite interesting, really, when you think about how to use these systems.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. And yeah, being polite always helps. Yes.
Of course, of course.
You mentioned I have a ton of them. You
You got
mentioned
tons.
computing,
Go.
right? Like how do you, because like there was nothing, and then we had LLMs, GPTs, and the world changed. How did you like? What was do you recall like what was your first encounter that made the light bulb go off? Like, huh? Now I get it.
Right. So yeah, actually, when it all came out, I was not paying attention that much. However, I think there were a series of tweets from one of our fellow MVPs, Gautam, about how he's using ChatGPT for PNP PowerShell and everything. So that got me intrigued to see what it is, and that's when I started looking into it. And yeah, it was like, wow, it can answer so many questions. And yeah, so that's how it all started. And then I started learning more about it, how to use it, and then Copilot came into picture. uh, trying to understand what it does and everything. In fact, just recently, my wife, she's also into IT as well. So she was asking me this question, hey, there are these different co-pilots, and Microsoft are saying it's free, but there is a license. What's all that? So I prepared a nice slide to explain her all the different offerings. And yeah, and then yeah, she was quite impressed with that, or I hope she was. Yeah, but
With the slide or the ability for you to explain that, or both?
uh, I think just with the slide, she.
Just with the slide. Perfect.
Yeah.
Do you
uh,
recall like what was the last prompt you used? Like the last one,
uh,
maybe I don't know, like 2 hours before the show, or like what was the last prompt? Do you know that?
so yeah, I highlighted a part of code, and then yeah, that's what I asked. Can this be made more efficient? That was
And then
the
it
one
gave
I
you
used
that
in.
code in assembly or not?
I mean, there were differences, of course, yeah. So I think some of the loops I was not using properly, so had to change. I mean, and when you look at it, why did I not think about that? So maybe if I had spent some more time, I would have gotten there. But it did save me time
Mhm.
on that aspect. So yeah, that was the one thing that I did a few hours back, actually. Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Any final tips for somebody who, I don't know, let's say somebody has never, gave it a try or never tried Copilot, never tried LLM. Any like tips? What is a good place to start or a good prompt to try?
Right. So the good place to start, I would say, is yeah, GitHub Copilot and Copilot for Microsoft 365, I believe, or just copilot.microsoft.com, and then you'll be directed to a proper place. And yeah, GitHub Copilot, there is an extension for that in VS Code and in Visual Studio or any other editors, I believe. Uh, and yeah, to set it up, it's quite easy. And then once you have it all set up, there are articles on the web which explain how to use Copilot or how to use GitHub Copilot, or you can ask Copilot how to use GitHub Copilot.
How do we use you? What are you anyway?
Yeah, and yeah, it's all quite straightforward. It's not very hard to. There's no learning curve as such. Uh, you start writing comments and then hit enter, and then you'll get different suggestions, and you can choose those suggestions. For me, what happens is sometimes I do not accept all of the suggestion. I take it as a starting point and then build up on it. And in that way, that has been very helpful. So to write some PowerShell scripts, you get an idea of the structure of the script, and then you build on that. So yeah, that's the starting point. Install the extension and then use copilot.microsoft.com.
Yeah, I think in that sense, it's like it's building the muscle, right? We've talked about this in the past as well about, that, okay, now I actually have this thing. I need to kind of work in a slightly different way. And I think getting started is almost just trying it and experimenting and, try out different ways of writing something, right? Sometimes you try something and it doesn't quite work out, but then you think, oh, well, if I'd have written it slightly differently, you try it, and then it's, oh, I'm getting a better answer. And you start to learn how to get the best out of the tooling as you kind of practice more. And I think that probably is, not just GitHub Copilot, but all AI systems at the moment, right? I think we're everything's getting better time after time.
Any tool.
So,
I mean, I still see, people who are in Word trying to do a page break with enters. And you're like, there's an option for that. And it's like, it's the same thing, like trying to do columns in Word or a table of contents or reference. Like, it's like if you plan to use a tool for, for your work or more than once, learn it. Like you will get a benefit like from everything else.
Yes,
absolutely. Yeah.
definitely. Yeah.
Well, Anoop, thank you very much for coming and talking to us today, for sharing your insights into how you're using AI day to day, or, both personal and work. I will be back soon asking about, everything about the universe, because I know that you will know it all. Well, with that, I'd like to say bye-bye.
See you, folks.
Right. Thank you, everyone.